Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Online Darts. It is Monday. It is the live lounge, and it is myself, Phill Bars, Jack Gobby Garwood. And as you can see, there is a black space. There's a black box there. Lee Boyce will be with us shortly. He's using some ridiculous excuse, Gob, that his food was cold in the restaurant and they had to send it back, so he's late. That's a new one.
Terrible. Terrible. That's even worse than a Monday wedding. What's going on?
Absolutely. But good evening, everyone. Welcome along.
I'm a little bit embarrassed
in the chat room. Yeah, it's embarrassing. We'll have a word. He's going to get battered when he comes on. We have got an absolute bumper 2 hours, maybe some Fergie time going on as well here today, everyone, because we have got lots and lots to get through. So much to talk about. We have got an unbelievable prize. I have a list of winners here as well, and I'm telling you, shortly we have got an unreal prize to give away tonight before we go, added to the list of long names I have. It is like Christmas come early on the live lounge, Gob.
It is indeed. Chat room has fired into the live. Good evening, everybody. Hope you are all well. Don't do that, Rose, because you know full well that Tug will be straight in there going, yes, sign me up. Sign me up. Anyone in the chat want to replace Lee? And then we have to deal with a North Yorkshire accent rather than a Brummie one. I'm not sure what's worse.
Yeah, good point. Well made. But
I just insult everybody I can find to start with. We're officially back after having last week off.
Yeah, so much going on. It is unreal, like genuinely amazing. The Masters, the Premier League, we've got cans of worms all over the place, the World Seniors. And speaking of that World Seniors, Gob, should we tell them?
Go on, then.
We have not one, but 2 pairs of tickets for the final of the World Seniors to give away. It is sold out. You cannot buy a ticket. And thanks to our friends at Jennings Bet, Derek is coming on from Jennings around 9 o'clock as well. We have 2 pairs of tickets to give away tonight. So in the chat room, you know what you have to do. You have to hashtag ODDarts, and these will be given away before the end of the stream. Huge. Absolutely huge. So before we jump into the action, loads of people in the chat room. Dan is in. Sorry, Anthony. All the friends from over the CDC in New York. Cannot wait to see you in June, my friend. Great to have you in. Fraser is in. Paul, Connor, James, Marcus, Nels, Niall is in. Of course, the werewolf is in. Carl from Darts Tracker. Great work at the weekend, my friend. Congratulations. Jason is in. Dennis, Kieran, Rose, Lee. Always Elvis. Philip is in as always. Fraser, Adrian, you're all in. What an unbelievable show it's been. Tommy is in as well. So as we say, 2 pairs of tickets to give away for the World Seniors Final. It is a sellout. And before 10 o'clock, someone will be coming. And you never know, you may even get a selfie with Gob, if you're lucky.
I've had a haircut and everything. I'm screaming. I'm hoping this makes the train go quicker on Wednesday. Less air resistance.
So that is it. Right, only one place to start. We are going to dive straight in, Gob. The Masters, The 2022 season has started. And it started with a bang. First up, some first round games on Friday. We're going to try and fly through these as quick as we can because honestly, if we take too much time, we'll be here till Wednesday with this show. But the picks of the first round, Dimitri Van den Berg, stunning 105 average to demolish Ian White 6-1. Superb from the Dreammaker gob.
Yeah, solid from Dimmy, as we've come to expect when he's on TV, really. He's just got this ability of turning up, switching on, and making it look simple. And that's a skill that not many of the top players have, to be honest. Or not many of the players. That's the difference between a top 8 and a top 24 player, should we say. When they're on it, they make it look so easy.
Yeah, completely. Absolutely. And then, I don't think you saw this one, but chat room, I'm going to ask your opinion. Krzysztof Ratajski's throw, I'm going to say the dreaded D word. Is there a little bit of dartitis creeping? The throw looked horrible at the weekend. The first dart was terrible. And look, let's hold no punches. He got over the line because Clemens blew it. But issues for Ratajski. Let us know if you noticed it in the chat room. We touched on it in the media room, and not great signs for the Polish Eagle gob, if that is the case.
No, I mean, you say Clemens blew it. They missed 10 match darts between them, so not ideal in the best part. But yeah, look, there were serious concerns with Ratajski's action in both games as well. James says it's always been like that to an extent, but there's just that moment on the first dart in particular that it just looked like it was a lot more difficult to get out of his hand. Yeah,
it just didn't look great. And then, I'm not sure where this came from. Simon Whitlock averaging a ton to defeat Dirk van Dijvenbode. Look, Dirk didn't play well, but from the Simon Whitlock we saw at the Players' Championship and the Worlds, didn't know if this was still in there, but he had the time of his life in Milton Keynes goal.
Last minute call up, goes and does bits. It's sort of the Simon Whitlock story to success, isn't it? Like, completely unexpected. Yeah. He cracks on and picks up a couple of results and usually keeps his ranking because of it. It's not a ranked event this time out, and there will be less and less withdrawals, we suspect, from major events in the next year or so. So he's going to have to be there on merit a lot more. But in the meantime, he just loves rocking up and causing an upset.
Yeah, completely. And then Rob Cross, 6-2 over Brendan Dolan. I'm sure we're going to talk about this man rather a lot in the upcoming segment, so we won't touch too much on this one right now. God knows what's coming. Luke Humphreys, a 6-1 winner over Devon Peterson. It was better from Devon, but another equipment change. The barrels look different and they look shorter than the javelins he was throwing at the Worlds. Look, it's still not the Devon of 18 months ago, but better from the African Warrior job.
Yeah, and he's another that the longer it goes on, though, we've seen the glimpse of improvement. We've seen it in players that have massively dipped off form and then made some sort of return. But the longer Devon goes about picking up wins on TV and playing somewhere close to his ability, we're still yet to see him really push that 95, 96 for a long time. And that's a sign of throwing pretty steady. You're difficult enough to beat on your own throw at that. You can be competitive with that. Dropping below that 90 just makes it that much more difficult. Luke Humphreys solid, but didn't really have to do a lot with it.
We've just had a WhatsApp from Boise. I think he's listening in the car on the way home. See you in a minute, sweetness. And then the last one, Joe Cullen beating Daryl Gurney 6-2. Look, this was closer than 6-2 as well. They both played well in this game, but like you say, some days when it's your weekend, it's your weekend. Spoiler alert, but the Rockstar prevailed. Moving on to round.
I don't think you were calling it at that moment after a win against Daryl Gurney in a good game, but yeah, spoiler alert. Round number 2, the Iceman Geraint Price beating Ryan Searle 10-8. Again, close game. There was some rust from the Iceman. It wasn't fluent, but in the big moments, he found
the moments of magic to get him over the line, like champions do.
Yeah. Look, disappointed to have lost his title at the World Championships. Been a bit of a drought for Gezi now for a while in terms of back end of tournaments. That's a couple of early-ish, spoiler alert, exits coming up. But yeah, a solid performance against Ryan Searle, who would have been target after a good run at the Players' Championship finals. Not the most, I don't know, the adjective, not the most flattering run at the World Championships. A lot of people were backing Ryan Searle to do a lot more, perhaps, at Ali Pali. He would have been targeting this as an event to get his teeth stuck into and show everybody that he's potentially top 16 caliber. But yeah, good performance from Gezi to get over the line. Tough draw, isn't it? Let's be honest. World number one, former world champion.
Yeah. Remember, keep them coming in the chat room as well. A couple of great questions. Evening, weekly darts cast. Hope you are good. I'm guessing it's Lau as always. Anthony says, kudos, Danny Lalby. 100%. We'll touch on the Riders qualifier later on in the programme, mate. 100%. Remember that fabulous competition. 2 tickets for the World Seniors final. All you've got to do, hashtag OD Darts in the chat room, and we will give them away before 10 p.m. this evening. And then, this was a strange game. Johnny Clayton defeated Dimitri Vandenberg 10-9, and when you look at the end averages, it looks close. However, for the first 10 legs of this game, Dimitri Vandenberg got absolutely battered, but was hanging on to Johnny's coattails. I think we looked at the stat. Johnny had darts in 9 of those first 10 legs to win them first. Genuinely could have been 9-1 up at the break, up break 2. And then he literally wins the last leg decider.
Yeah, look, battling qualities from Johnny as he was trying to defend his side. I mean, spoiler alert, almost the inverse happened around later with a Johnny Clayton performance. He was hanging on despite ridiculous average later on. But yeah, look, Johnny's just got this battling quality about him now where he's difficult to put away, is Clayton, because he just hits so many 140s rather than tons. It makes him that much more difficult to put away because a 2 treble visit from virtually any situation gets him back in the leg and it puts so much pressure back on you.
Yeah. Dave Chisnell, a 10-4 victory over James Wade. And God, it's what we said before with that James Wade not having the change of gear. If he starts in gear 2, he finishes in gear 2. 94 average now. Look, 94 is tidy, but against the big boys, when they're power scoring, it's not going to cut it, is it?
Yeah, and well, it was a ton from Dave Chisnell, and spoiler alert, he does pretty well this weekend. Once again, after, I'm not going to lie, mate, and I'm glad Lee isn't here to rub this bit in, but neither of our finalists got there, and we both predicted comfortable wins for Stephen Bunting over Dave Chisnell. He shouldn't have even got out of the first round.
Yeah. But yeah, no, look, Chizzy played really, really well. Michael Smith, 10-6 over Christoph Ratajski, 105.5 average. It was really, really good from Bully Boy, and again, good signs from Michael Smith. Then another talking point: the world champion Snakebite Peter Wright entered the fray, and to say he had butchered a set of the Windmill, is it Flex or whatever they were called, setup. He was literally, Simon Whitlock told us in his post-match interview afterwards, he was in the practice room with a Stanley knife cutting his flights up and went on stage with a homemade job gob.
I just don't get it. And I don't think I'll ever get it. And I'm not sure it's even that entertaining to talk about anymore. It's just annoying and stupid. You're the world champion. You won the 2 biggest televised ranking events last year and the Players' Championship final, all throwing a straight barrel dart. Long, thin, straight barrel dart. I don't care if you don't like it. You're good with it. Throw it.
It was interesting that on Red Dragon's social media, they put the picture up. It was new dart incoming or something like that. What do you think of Peter's new setup? And then after the game, Joe Wright, Peter's wife, commented one word: crap. So I don't think we'll be seeing them again. But Simon Whitlock march carried on a 10-8 win over Peter Wright. Then Jose de Souza against Rob Cross. This is when tongues were wagging, Gob. Not the fact that Jose de Souza beat Rob Cross, the fact that Rob had gone early when there was so much talk around the Premier League, which we'll come on to later.
I think the fashion in which he went as well, he was so comfortable for so long in this match, so far ahead, absolutely imploded, let Jose back in the match who looked like he was never going to be anywhere near it. And all of a sudden, Jose de Souza is the man who is looking more likely to be in contention for that Premier League as someone who lost in the final of the event last year on debut.
Well, ironically, it was a Rob Cross miscount, not a Jose one, that turned the match on its head. That's another one. And then we had an interesting one. Michael Van Gerwen, a 10-9 winner over Luke Humphries. MVG was 9-7 down. Luke Humphries missed 5 match darts in leg number 18. And then it all got a little bit spicy in the final leg, Gob.
Yes, very much so. Just how many more times are we going to see Van Gerwen called into question for these sort of antics and say it's not in his character, and then he turn around and say, "Yeah, I did cough," after said he didn't cough?
He said he did, but I'm not condoning this, by the way, but he said he held it and he was trying to hold it, but just couldn't. Right? If that's true, I'm saying if. I'm not saying it's not. But then flip the coin. If Luke Humphries had won that last leg, would he have made a big deal over it?
I guess it wouldn't have been blown up as much. He stopped on the throw, which is when you know there's something there anyway.
Yeah. I'm not saying there wasn't. I'm just saying that
if it drops a player out of rhythm, then there's a discussion point, isn't there? And whatever happens afterwards is just how the two players deal with it and get over that situation, isn't it? So I just want to talk about the darts. And they were okay in patches. They still weren't the unassailable Michael Van Gerwen, 91 match average.
It wasn't okay in patches. It was shite.
It's just...
Let's not beat around the bush.
World number one, dominate and smash everybody off the board, Van Gerwen, that everybody is used to. And again, the longer this goes on, the less likely it is that we see him back on that mantle.
It will be interesting. And then a very strange game from the good, the bad, and the very bad. Joe Cullen, stunning 106 average in a 10-1 victory over Gary Anderson. And again, like I've just said against Michael, let's not hide it. Gary was shite.
Yeah. And I was excited. I was excited for this one. Because when Ryan Searle's coming out and telling you they've actually been practicing and Gary has absolutely bashed him for 3 days straight, after looking like he had that bit between his teeth at the Worlds again, which we know he loves that event and that's a little bit more isolated, but you just think maybe, just maybe, Gary was coming round to the thinking that we're on about the other week, where he just has to put the effort in for 1 year instead of 3 and you can go off a lot quicker with the same amount of earnings. And that performance was just a little bit flat. I get it's a non-ranking event. I get that he's pretty set for the rest of the year as it is. Didn't need to do an awful lot. But then why put the 3 days practice in? Hopefully, we see him do some damage in the next 16 weeks.
Yeah, agreed. Moving on. The quarterfinals. And it was that horrid all-Welsh quarterfinal. They need to hurry up and get out of 1 and 8 spots in the rankings at the moment. But it was Johnny Clayton, 4-1 down after session 1. But then after that, the Ferret looked irresistible, God, in a 10-8 win over Gary Price.
He was averaging 107 at 4-1 down. He just only had 3 darts at a double and he'd hit 2 of them. And absolutely superb from Johnny to turn it around that second session 4-1 and then run away with it pretty much. Superb performance from him. It's not the first time we've seen him make a comeback against Price either, and I think maybe that's starting to play on Gezzy's mind a bit when these two meet. There isn't a situation now in a match that Johnny hasn't won a game from. He's hung on to win a close one. He's come back from miles back. They've done the battle. Don't get me wrong, Price has won his fair share of that battle as well. But the fact that Johnny has beaten him from every single position you can pretty much think of in a darts match will certainly be playing on Price's mind as somebody who, look, they respect an awful lot. I think there is an element of Price struggling to G himself up at the same level as he would to other rivals. There is that friendship there. They're the World Cup teammates, etc. And again, it's difficult to motivate himself for that.
Yeah. Then, this was an absolute belter of a game. Dave Chisnell, 10-8 win over Michael Smith. Chizzy's finishing in the mid part of this game was just unreal. Something that has been questioned about Chizzy's game, but his combination finishing, there was a 1-5-3 when Buddy Boy was sat on, I think it was tops or tens, was just unreal.
Yeah, 4-ton pluses from him in this match. It just, every time it looked like Michael Smith had weathered the storm a little bit, and you're thinking, right, Chizzy can't and won't do that again. He goes and does it again, and it's one of them Dave Chisnell performances that we just won't be able to put our finger on. He goes on a decent run again, and then you sat here for probably the next 2 or 3 events going, well, where's that Dave Chisnell gone?
Yeah. Yeah, no, completely. It was superb, but just a really good game. And then this was a weird game. Jose de Souza, Simon Whitlock. He went one way, then the next, and at 9-all, Simon Whitlock got the pistols out and taught himself how to dance because he had a mare.
I'm not sure I get that reference, but yeah, not great.
Shot himself in the foot.
Oh, okay, yeah, we'll go with that one. Yeah, talking of shooting themselves in the foot, Lee Boyce is nearly here. Hello.
Hi.
Evening.
How was your food, darling?
First time round or second time round? First time was cold. Second time was then too warm.
Do they know you're a big-time YouTuber who has a massive pull over local people from your area?
No, but they will next time. and the worst thing about it is to say sorry. They offered me free dessert, but it had to be here, so we haven't had the free dessert. I've even turned it down. That's the worst. Yeah, the missus might be winning it back, but you know, we'll find a way to complain.
Brilliant. And then the quarterfinal, Joe Cullen 10-7 over MVG. But let's be fair, boys, so you were there. It could have been a lot wider than that.
Yeah, it could have been and probably should have been. Disappointing for Michael with all the talk beforehand, all the practice that we believe he'd done holiday. It's up the board with him. I'm still not sure how much he'd done, but this weekend probably showed that they're still far away from where his top game is. But fair play for Joe, because there's been question marks around Joe in these type of games. And in the afternoon, come through that one comfortably against MVG. I said probably should have been a bit of a wider gap.
Yeah. Then moving on to the semi-final. We'll go in draw bracket order as it went in the thing. Johnny Clayton was defeated by Dave Chisnell. And again, in the early stages of this one, Johnny will be thinking how I didn't get away, but Chizzy dug in when it really mattered and just found that little bit when it mattered.
Go on, Lee.
Yeah, he did. And I know one thing that Dob mentioned, we were speaking about it yesterday as well. I think Mark picked up the furthest as well out the three of us. I'll throw that in now. Yes, 25 minutes late, but I'll throw it in. It was very strange for me to see Clayton put this type of performance in. With his love for Milton Keynes is clear to see from what he done the back end of last year. But it was a very, very strong performance by Chizzy. Level at 5 apiece, I think. And then Chizzy just stepped it up at the back end of that. And probably another one, the scoreline is probably about right in this one. Because Dave Chisnell was very, very impressive. And at that stage, there was a lot of talk that he'd be the one to go on and pick up his first.
Yeah. Someone says, I think Phill doesn't like Gary.
We've got. Should we tell him the content plan?
Yeah, that would anything. I did go to Gary's wedding reception 2 weeks ago.
You took your camera though,
Anyway.
didn't you? That was it. Just wanted the inside scoop.
And then in the second semi-final, Joe Cullen booking a place in his first TV final, 11-8 over Jose de Souza. And again, Cullen pretty much outplayed de Souza in that semi-final.
Yeah, from start to finish, Joe Cullen was superb. 101 average in a semi-final on TV. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, we're definitely going to touch on it in a minute, but the run from start to finish from Joe Cullen was absolutely superb over this entire event, especially considering the circumstances last year. And that was the icing on the cake, really, to get to that first final against Chizzy.
It was. And spoiler alert incoming. It's been everywhere today. We all know. What a moment for the rock star Joe Cullen picking up his maiden TV title. And I think it's fair to say he was in control of the game. And Boyce was there in the media room when he came up afterwards. His words were along the lines of, I've won Pro Tours, Euro Tours, but my bum went. He said he'd never felt pressure like it going for that winning double.
Yeah, well, it took him enough, didn't it? Was it 10 missed in the end?
10.
But it was one of them that I know a lot of talk when we got to this final was talking about Chisnell, and the only time he's played in the TV final was against Taylor or MVG. And to be honest, this probably played in both players' hands at the time, because getting to that final stage, both players were going to be nervy. The game started that way. And for Joe then to have those opportunities. But the way he then went and won it, 118 the last leg, taking out 36, pretty comfortably, obviously with the misses he'd had. His reaction that everyone saw sort of said it all. And then just before we went on camera upstairs was, as you've said, Phill was along the lines of, I won't swear to before 9 o'clock, but it was along the lines of that he was catching it quite a little after we'd missed so many at that double. And that Dave was coming back into it, like says it. Joe went away with that last leg, and the 180 played a big part in that. But you just had a feeling if Chizzy kept with him, that it could have got very, very nervy and potentially done all the way. But well deserved, Joe. And from going round the arena on Sunday, it was probably the one player who a lot of people wanted to see pick up the first trophy. That was from early on in the day. Someone who's put a lot of work and effort in his game, and obviously we know the story about last year, the personal loss he had. But what an achievement to go and pick it up, the first one of 2022.
Yeah. Evening, Connor is in the chat room. Hope you are good, my friend. Before we leave the Masters and get on to the juicy stuff, shall we say, we've got clips of Joe Cullen and Dave Chisnell. So first of all, we're going to hear a little clip from the man himself, Mr. Cullen.
Yeah, it feels amazing. I've dreamt of this moment for a long time. You know, it's not necessarily the Masters, but to get a TV win, you know, with that field that's set, obviously the Masters, it's the top 24 in the world. So I can't have so much more. Yeah, it's great to have, you know, my dad by my side. Obviously, losing my mum last year was really tough. So it's it's a case of my dad's, stepped up and he's travelling with me as well. It's great to have, good company, especially somebody, who I'm as close to as I am my dad. But yeah, it would have been nice to win it if no one was here, but it's even more special to have my father here as well. Yeah,
it's a big announcement tomorrow. Something that you've wanted to play, and are you hoping for that call now to be in one of those 8 spots for the Premier League?
Yeah. Well, it will happen if it happens. I think it's pretty difficult to leave me out now.
We'll come on to that in a minute. That was his thoughts before the announcement. And then we have Chiz as well.
From the start, really, I didn't turn up. I was just rubbish. Joe deserved all the credit he got. He deserved to win it easily, but he let me in. I was just too hot over there. I think the break did me as well a little bit.
And then Chiz just went off on a tandem, bless him, about So we just cut it off there.
Tandem, Chiz.
Yeah.
Need subtitles for Chiz. I'm not even sure Chiz can understand Chiz sometimes.
So congratulations to the rock star Joe Cullen winning his maiden PDC TV title. Will he emulate Johnny Clayton? Anthony says, can you not use salty language before 9 p.m? Yeah, kind of, mate. We with the watershed in the UK is 9, so we try and behave until then. Before we move on, everyone absolutely smashing it. Remember, if you haven't, drop us a like and subscribe to Online Darts. Plenty coming up this week in particular. The Live League returns tomorrow. The World Seniors Pro Tour action. We have it all covered. But let's go. This could be the one. Hot off the news this morning. We kind of already knew. The Premier League 8 were finalised. We're not going to lie. We tried to tease you last week. 7 of the 8 knew they were in already. There was one place going into the weekend. The giveaway is the fact that they were all filming their media at some point over the weekend for the Premier League. The joys of being in the press room. I won't name the player, but he walked up in the wrong shirt and he had his kazoo badge on his shirt. Had to go back to his room and get the other one.
Only.
But it was Joe Cullen who took the final place, winning the Masters, and our WhatsApp chat was a little bit interesting across the weekend. Moving into the semi-finals, boys, we all said it. There was a scenario brewing that I don't think the PDC wanted.
I would have loved it. I would have absolutely loved it because I think in some respect, they've got a little bit fortunate that somebody that they wanted in previously went on to win this event. But in other respects, they backed themselves into a corner once again by delaying this announcement. Yeah. And after last year, by putting Johnny Clayton in, if somebody from left field had won this event and then not been put in, what on earth is the point in delaying the announcement? They absolutely backed themselves into a corner. When we talk about the Premier League and it being entertaining, and there's been a lot of talk, largely from us, but from pretty much all corners of the media over the last few weeks about what the Premier League means and the sort of players that are in it and the qualification criteria, Dave Chisnell versus Jose de Souza as a potential final is not the players that the PDC are looking for this event.
Yeah, and look, I'm still not convinced if Chizzy had won the final here, they'd have put him in. I'm really not.
Yeah, right. I'm with you on that.
But they set the precedent. They backed themselves into a corner, didn't they?
But
they did. I think with Jose winning it, if Jose would have won it, you've also docked the fact of him the most 180s, runner up last year. You've docked sort of that line to go down. I ain't convinced which is if it would have been. But yeah, I'm with you on that, Phil. I don't think they would have done. I agree, Dob, they backed themselves into a tour. But we spoke about this last week, and I think we picked out two sort of something like Dirt and Vitoisty or someone we picked to say, what about if these meet in the final, would they be in? And we got sort of a scenario of two players potentially within a meet at that stage when we was at the semis. And I think that they had backed themselves in, but there was going to be a couple of players within there that still wouldn't have got a slot by winning the Masters. And then it would have potentially been Rob Cross, who would have had that 8th spot.
Yeah. Look, I suppose let's talk about the elephant in the room. Rob Cross's admission. There was an email leaked on Twitter last night that from Rob's manager that he wasn't best pleased that it was leaked. That they kind of knew they'd been snubbed because obviously, look, when you're in a hotel environment, it's hard to keep secrets. All the players know, and Rob was there, and they were fully aware that players had gone and done media for the Premier League, weren't they, boys? It wasn't, although it wasn't.
Yeah.
We weren't told. It's hard to keep secrets in that environment, as you know.
Yeah, it become more and more clear as the weekend progressed. As you said, there was a couple of hiccups in regards to like the run shirts being worn, the odd conversation that obviously leads down that line of being ready for the weekend with the Pro Tours and then obviously the Premier League, different travel arrangements, all that sort of conversation does happen. So you was in that situation. It'd have been different if that semi-final would have been 4 of the 7 that was already in. But once sort of the weekend progressed as it did, I think it became very, very clear that Rob and his management team believed that he wasn't going to be in.
Yeah. It was funny. We'll come back to Cross in a second, but it was in Price's interview after beating Ryan Searle when he talked about looking forward to playing in Cardiff. And we were like, and then afterwards he was like, if I'm picked.
The current world number 1 not being picked for the Premier League would be an absolute disaster. There's no
funny,
point
but
in that. You can walk around with the biggest peacockery you want saying, I'm going to Cardiff to play darts in front of a home crowd. The man was on every single advertising poster. We're going back to his hometown, and he's still the reigning world number 1. Could you imagine not picking a world? It's bad enough. I didn't pick Paul Nicholson, and I didn't pick Rob Cross. Can you imagine not picking Gerwyn Price?
No, but what I will say on around the advertising poster, the advert then has been on Sky today, and I've still seen Jose De Souza popping up 3 or 4 times in that advert. They haven't looked at changing that. They haven't looked at changing that with the special one still in it and not competing in this year's. Obviously, the poster sort of gave away 4 of them, but
yeah. But what does this say though? Rob Cross won a TV ranking title last year. Joe Cullen has won a non-ranked TV title. Are we now setting a dangerous precedent that now says the Masters is more highly thought of than the European Championships?
I think we have to be. That's definitely what they've just done. The issue is that we already knew that Gary Anderson and Michael Smith were in. They'd already been told a good 2 weeks ago, right? So we knew this last spot effectively was a shootout between Rob Cross, an outside shot of Dimitri van den Berg because he fits the image, he speaks the languages, he's entertaining, but he isn't in the best of form, and potentially an outside shot for Fallon Sherrock if they still wanted to go down that route. Otherwise, it was whoever comes through this event. Now, in doing so, what they have done, what the PDC have done, especially in narrowing the field, I still cannot get my head around the format change and narrowing the field. I don't like it. I've said it enough times. We've said we'll give it a chance. We'll give it a chance for 3 weeks. We'll enjoy it, but then we'll get bored of seeing the same stuff by week 4 onwards for the next 12 weeks. What they've effectively done, when we know it's a final play shootout between Rob Cross and Joe Cullen, is turn around and say a recent Masters win is more important than a ranked European Championships. Because Rob Cross sits higher in the rankings, hits just as many 180s, and is a former world champion, has won 5 majors.
The other side of it for me as well, Dob, that it confirmed is one thing we spoke about last week or the week before. Obviously, we spoke about the Premier League a lot in January. Was around if that fourth spot means that it's still the top four. Is that rule still in place? How do they pit it? But for me, the UK Open being a rant event and the European Championship being a rant event, as opens up that debate then. But the fact is now that James Wade is in it and Rob Cross isn't, for me means that the one rule that is still there is that top four are in, because James Wade's not in because he's fourth, not because he's UK Open winner. Because if that was the case and it was on the path of winning,
we're all fully aware that James Wade is not flavour of the month and never will be with the PDC. There's an element of disrespect. There's an element of just people in the game not liking James Wade's character. I disagree with that stance, have done for a long, long time, but it exists. And what they've done by narrowing the field and having a character in that they don't like is even limited the other options that they can bring in. They can't really have anybody similar enough because they're just looking to be expansive and entertaining. And keeping that top four rule, which I completely agree with. James Wade, if he hadn't have been in, would have been a disaster. And I would have been going just as vehemently at the PDC right now as I am about Rob Cross not being picked. It would be a nightmare. And absolutely, you cannot leave out a current top four who also won a PDC televised major last year. If they'd went and done both of those things and just changed the rules completely, you just give up as to what this Premier League actually is.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. Go on,
go
boss.
on,
No, go on, mate.
No, all I was going to say is the biggest thing for me tonight is looking at all the opinions sort of on social media today, looking at is it the right height? Should Frost be in? Should Dimmy be in? Should Jose be in? All these probably people who are in. And actually, the biggest thing for me still is the format and what we've got with the 8 players, not the fact that who the 8 players are, because like it says, I don't think any of us can really argue about 7 of those. I think a lot of the question marks have been around probably Gary Anderson in regards to the rest of either in the top 4 or won a TV title. But once then, what Gary Anderson brings to the Premier League, he was the one I'd seen probably left a few and replaced by Rob Cross. But for me, it's not the 8 that are in there. It's the fact of the change where you've got 10 very strong players who could have been in this Premier League with the 8 we've got, and then the next 2 spots go into Cross, and then probably either Dimmy or Jose to cement that. I find still the format and what we've got for the next 16 weeks the biggest story more than the 8 players that we've got in there.
Chat room, let us know. What do you think? Did they get the 8 right? Get involved. Let us know. Have they got it right?
60% say yes, 40% say no, Phil. We've ended that poll. We'll put another one up very, very shortly.
Still waiting for the fixtures to be released on the Premier League. Expecting that probably tomorrow. Who is going to be the cannon fodder that is put up to play Gerwyn Price? I think it's a straight choice of 2. Who plays Gerwyn Price first in Cardiff? Are we taking odds?
I would, straight away, as normal Premier League, correct me if I'm wrong, normally, we have a repeat of the World Final on first night, normally.
Yeah.
So if that's to happen, then obviously Wright and Smith play. Then Johnny and Derwin, you would expect to not them meet, or probably not even be in the same half. So it doesn't leave many to play the Welsh boys, does it?
Look, God won't like this, but I think they offer up James Wade.
Oh, I completely agree. You know what happened.
To which one?
Gezi.
Right.
And I think Gary plays Johnny.
Correct. And Cullen v MVG again.
Yeah. Jason, that's a very good point. They haven't brought that up. The
I guess the difference this time is that I suppose you can't double header, so you'd have to put a replacement in.
Or buy.
You can't have a buy, surely.
Why not? It's a tournament. Each night, every day, every match matters, as it says.
I know, but also what you can then do is have a situation like in F1 where Robert Kubica gets a drive and enters the rankings as 20th of 21 in Formula One last season. Somebody could turn up and play for 2 weeks in a tournament and accumulate 2 wins, and that be enough ranking points that actually puts them above what would have been 8th place, and they sneak into finals night. What a backdoor entrance that would be.
I don't do that, but
if multiple players miss multiple weeks and it's always the same replacement dropping into the schedule.
The only reason I don't is I'm guessing the contract the players have got to be in the Premier League gets them now for every single night, including finals nights.
I guess so.
And that probably would mean not, but I think they'd put a player in. Who that player would be, I'm not sure. Would it depend on venue?
No.
No. Don't know. An interesting one. Also, some other huge news this morning. Last week, Unicorn did the best to hide their announcement halfway down an article, but it was spotted that Unicorn are no longer board manufacturing sponsors of equipment for all PDC. This is the worst kept secret ever. However, we will see the Blade 6, the triple core, on show in the PDC. I can't wait, boys, because I'm not a Unicorn basher or anything like this, but the Blade 6 is the best ball on the market by an absolute mile, in my opinion. And when you've got the best players in the world, they should be playing on the best equipment.
If you'd got me aboard by now, Phil, I'd be able to confirm that. Still waiting. No, look, the reputation of the windmill blades, especially the 4s and the 5s, has long been a better standing in darts than Unicorn, especially in the last few years. I think the issue is, I genuinely don't think the Unicorn is a bad board, but I think their high-end board is for match boards, and for that purpose, they're not massively durable, right? They're designed to look good for short periods of time. And what people have done is take them home, spend an awful lot of money on them, and they go out of shape or they get battered an awful lot in a short space of time. People putting 4 hours a day on it, which is not what they're designed for aesthetically, and then saying they don't look right. We've also had the issue of the perception that darts haven't stayed in properly on the Unicorn boards over the last few years. They did the bounce out report a couple of years back. The findings were virtually negligible, but players have still felt there's an issue with them in certain conditions and have gone after far more aggressive points. And the reputational damage of the last few years, if you're in the spotlight as constantly as Unicorn dartboards have been over the last few years, especially when there's been less and less showing of BDO events who were the main partner of Windmill, if people only ever see Unicorn boards on TV and only ever see darts dropping out on TV from a Unicorn board, they're only ever going to know that Unicorn are the ones that have the problems. These problems exist with every single board you're ever going to get on the market. You're going to get some that are hard. You're going to get some that are soft. The advantage that Windmill have is that they have a factory at source. Everybody else moves their sizer once, then makes the board, then moves it again. And from what we know, pretty sure Target and Unicorn share a similar area, and they're having logistical problems, as everybody is since Brexit. Windmill are slightly different. They're based differently. They're coming in with a superior product. The Blade 6 triple core is unrivaled. It is brand new. The carbon fiber in the back is completely new technology, and just makes it work that much better. The wiring makes it less compact, so it doesn't start spraying everywhere. It's just a good move all around.
Oh, completely. And like we say, look, a lot any board, it's to do with storage, and that's something the PDC don't do well. They don't store the product well. But like we say, with Winmar, they make the boards at source, so they control everything to do with the manufacturing of their dartboards. Where other manufacturers, it's taken out of their hands. They're relying on other people. So look, it's just so good that we are going to have the best boards on show, not just on TV. It's a whole hook, line, and sinker that Winmar are doing it from top to bottom, from the glitzy games on TV to the Pro Tour to the Challenge Tour to the Dev Tour. They already do the JDC, which is one of the partners of the PDC anyway. It's just great from start to finish, Boise.
Yeah, I agree. It is. For me, it's the right move. It'll be interesting the first few weeks because, as Dob says, we've only really had Unicorn when we've been talking about boards. As soon as we have our first bounce out, even if it's nothing to do with the board, it's clipped the wire, we're going to have social media probably the throws in, so let's switch back. But for me, it's the right move. And it's right as well that it is top to bottom. I think we've talked about it in other sports, but for me, the top end of the game and the sort of JDC all the way down to that level should be using the same board, same equipment. So it's the right move that's happening across, like I said, PDC and into JDC.
I was going to say that, and just the response on social media from this today. Look, like we said, we all knew it was the worst kept secret around that it was happening. But even the response from players has been unreal on this. So huge watershed moment that for the first time since the Lakeside, we're going to see the famous blade back on our screens Thursday, Cardiff, the Premier League. Can't wait.
Yeah.
For the boards or for the Premier League?
Just the boards. Don't worry about the Premier League. just like...
No one wants to go to Wales. World Seniors is on.
Exactly, Dob.
Conveniently, brings me on to our new poll.
We'll turn up at the start. We'll see all the seniors when we Dob. We won't turn up on a Friday. You know what I mean? We'll be there from the off.
We'll get there on a Wednesday, mate. Don't you worry about us.
Well,
train is booked. Hotel is ready.
Technically, if you want to get like that, who's going to the Circus Tavern tomorrow? So I'll be there first.
Yeah, turning up and leaving doesn't count.
But that is, it was a bumper day of news today, boys, wasn't it? It was literally, right, where to start and just try and smash through everything.
Yeah. It's been the most crazy couple of weeks. I mean, we're about to do what? What order are we going in now? We're going to do Premier League? Or are we going to talk? Are we going to do World Seniors? Or are we going to hold that back? Are we going to talk the fact?
No, Derek is just down in the chat room, so I'm just teeing him up. No, if you give me a second.
We've got to come back to WDF Worlds. We've got to come back to the Live League.
Yep. It's always go.
Third time. Lee's steak wasn't cooked properly time. We're going to be here all night.
Well, and then if by magic we are joined by Derek Summers from our friends over at Jennings Bet, and which means we have to be talking about the World Seniors. Derek, good evening. How are we?
I'm very well, yeah. Glad to hear you for the last hour. Bickering, yeah, it's been lovely. It's going to be quite easy to just go through the world and pick the winners here, I think.
We don't bicker, Derek. I tell these two why they're wrong.
Well, I'm going to bow to your knowledge, Jack, having spent a bit of time with you at the qualifiers. I can tell you that, yeah, you know more than these two, I think, anyway.
There's no need for that. There's no need for that.
Hey, I'm from the knock.
Speaking of the World Seniors, Derek, how excited are you now as Jennings Bet that it's almost here? We can see it on the horizon at the Circus Tavern now.
Yeah, it's a bit overwhelming, really. I think we've built it up, and then everything, getting Ali Pally out of the way, and then getting the Masters. But the build-up's been really, really intense, and even after today, even really with the announcement for the Premier League, there's still a lot of love for the World Seniors. Last week with the showing of the trophy, which was absolutely fantastic. It just really just want to drive there till Thursday evening. I mean, I'll be there Wednesday at the venue myself, but come Thursday morning and then watching the crowds come in from sort of 5 o'clock on Thursday, it'll be a sight to behold. I think I went there last week to have a look again. It's going to be amazing, absolutely amazing.
In terms of the favourite, Phill Taylor is the favourite. Look, I know it's Phill, but is that brave considering he hasn't thrown a competitive dart for near on 2 years?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of reputation. I think it's one of them in sport, isn't it? I look further down the field and I'm looking at Robert Thornton and I look at Martin Adams and they're playing a good game and they're throwing well. And I don't really know what Phil's doing. I've heard a couple of the exhibitions he's been throwing okay, and he's obviously been practicing more since then. So it's his reputation that is why he's the favourite. And I think once he gets a game into him, then maybe that ring rustiness will come out. I think he's got the hard side of the draw. To be honest, I think he might find it quite difficult to get to the final.
Have you seen much action on Phill, or are the punters taking the value elsewhere?
No, all the money is for Phill. Yeah, everything we've seen, big money is for Phill. And I think that's just punters thinking they know that the talent that he's got is just going to win him through without necessarily understanding what some of the other players have done. A couple of some of the match markets have come out over the last couple of days, and if you know your darts, you might think there's a rick or two there. But again, it's bookmaking's about opinions, and it's backing your opinion against somebody else's. And I think at the price that Phill is, I think he's quite short, and I think I'd be looking elsewhere.
One name has caught the eye from a lot of people since she was added. Lisa Ashton at 16-1 is taking a lot of people's fancy.
Yeah, I think she has got a really good chance. I think that she's one of them players that's been playing well. She's been throwing consistently. I think she did okay at Q School. She did okay last week on the Pro Tour, on the Challenge Tour, and I think she's thereabouts. And again, I think once she's throwing them arrows, I think she's in the right side of the draw. I've got her to be in the semis and then against Martin. So, however they're playing at that stage, it could be, toss of a coin, but we'll see. I think she'll have a good tournament.
Looking at some of those individual games, is there any one of those particular early games that you really like the look of, Derek?
I've got to say, I think, again, and I base this on nothing more than just soundings, really. I just, Dieter Hedman to beat Peter Manley, it just looks a shoo-in. I've been quite pally with Peter over the years, and I get no joy out of saying it, but everybody says he can't throw, and he's favourite to beat Dieter, who's playing some good darts. So there's the one, and I suppose the other one that just coming through the qualifiers, or didn't quite win, but on his ranking, is Dave Prins. I think he's got a great chance against Paul Lim. I think he's a superb bet. But again, matter of opinion. So we'll see. Paul's obviously not coming all this way for nothing. So he'll obviously fancy his chances. But I just think Dave Prins has got a chance. And I think, again, he's one of them. He's playing week in, week out. And he could have a run. He could have a run to the semis. But, we'll see. I've got him down to play Robert. I'm working it through. I've got him to play Robert Thornton in the quarters. So, again, we'll see how that goes.
I don't know, this is obviously for Gob and for you, Derek. How important was it for Jennings to want to do the whole of the tour as well, not just the inaugural Worlds, but be part of something special across the whole year?
Yeah, I mean, we're not the biggest names. You know, we've not sponsored anything before, and when sort of I got involved with it late autumn, and the tour was being talked about, you know, my gaffer was really keen on making this something that we could own, certainly for this year and hopefully for years to come. You know, we want to try and build the relationship with the organisation. You know, the Jasons who are involved, we like the way they work. We like the way this is. I mean, I'm just looking at some of the players that could drop into this, you know, in the next few years. I mean, you know, Peter Wright could be playing in it, you know, and there are other players, you know, Glenn Durant. There's a whole stream of players that could ready-made to come into this, and hopefully once. There'll always be an invitational element to this, I think, but once we can get the tour up and a structure of ratings and people can play on their merits, and we can maybe have a more of a 50-50 split between invitation and people getting in, then, you know, it's only going to grow, and I think that's where we want to do. We want to try and foster something special here, and I think that's what because the love that this has been getting on social media has just been absolutely unbelievable. You know, and when the coverage starts at the weekend and all the fancy dress and all the singing, and, you know, I think it'll take a lot of people back 20 years to, you know, when they were maybe a bit younger, you know.
Jump in there, God, because you've done a lot, obviously, with it as well.
I have announced earlier today, Derek, best fancy dress prize per session. Looking forward to that one.
Well, you've got it for tonight's outfit, so well done.
This is smartest dress, not fancy dress. I'm surprised Lee hasn't got one of his shirts on. He's been out for dinner. Are you bringing one to the tavern, Lee?
Of course. I can bring you one if you want, though.
I'm all right. I've actually washed up my WS shirts. You can have one of them, but yeah, you know.
We'll do a swap shirts on the Thursday. It's fine.
As long as it's not Derek's Everton one, that'll do.
Oh, no, don't get personal.
I'm not. I just stated that we support different football teams after meeting you for the first time in Reading previously, and I think that was the perfect event to set this off in motion, wasn't it? That qualifier that we were both at in Reading. It's the first time that venue had hosted, but it was superb. Just the buzz around the room. If the players are that interested, the fans are starting to get on board with it now, especially after the busy PDC season. Like you said, this has got real staying power with the players and the names and the caliber that are interested.
Yeah, I just think the whole setup, I think the way that they've tried to grow this organically, really, and I can just see it getting bigger. You know, we've got 3 big events this year. We've got the Open Series event, we've got the qualifiers. You know, there's something nearly every month, and I just see it getting bigger and better. And you know, and I probably wish that if Phill doesn't win this one, then he'll have something to prove in the other 2, and there'll be a story. And even if he does win this one, I don't think it's not going to be all his own way. So there'll be some great games, some close games, and, you know, we'll see a true winner, a true champion on Sunday night, and, you know, the coverage that we're going to get, not just in the UK on the BBC and BT Sport, but around the world as well. And as I said, you know, repeat myself, just the love that people seem to have for all of these players. You know, they've got their own followings, and it's virtually, I think they're sold out now every single session. So it's just amazing. It's just been absolutely amazing, superb.
Which means that your ticket giveaways are even more vital to people.
No,
I'll try and get some myself.
One thing I was going to say on it though, for the 24 players in it, if you needed any more extra motivation, how beautiful is that trophy? Because I'm telling you one thing, I would want my hand on that, because that is an absolutely quarter of a trophy. So if the players needed any more motivation for another hour or 2 on the board, that certainly gave it the players last week, and all the sorts, as you said, how good it's been on social media. all the hype it's had, it went up another level. It seemed to me last week when the trophy got revealed.
I mean, no, I did something with the legend of darts back in 2008 and 2009, and I thought that was a great tournament back then. But the people who are running this just seem to have a different level of perception and a different level of wanting to get things right and perfect. And that trophy just epitomises everything they're trying to do. It's just going to be awesome, and it is just going to be such a special 4 days. And at the end of it, I mean, some people have not seen each other for 20 years. It was like that at the qualifiers, wasn't it, Jack?
Yeah.
It's just brilliant. People like hugging each other, and they hadn't seen each other in 20 years. And I think some of these, I mean, I'll just wait. If Peter does beat Peter, then that'll be great the next night to see Peter and Phill. But then looking at Phill and maybe Phill and Kevin playing, that could be, so there's all these rivalries that will just be at the forefront, and I think it's going to be a great spectacle. And whoever wins it, they'll have deserved it.
We cannot wait. Genuinely can't wait for the tournament. Derek, absolute pleasure to have you on the live lounge, mate. Thank you very much for jumping on, and thank you for Jennings for their continued support of the channel, mate.
No, it's fine. Well, hopefully I'll see you all the weekend, guys, and maybe I'll even
See you Wednesday.
See you Wednesday.
I'll hold you to that. I was too busy in Reading, so I'll hold you to that.
No, you're right. See you soon. Best of luck.
Thank you very much, Derek, for your time, mate, and we'll see you at the weekend. Derek from our friends over at Jennings Bet, which moves us nicely on for us. No, wrong one. To have a look at where we think this is going, boys. We do it for every tournament, so this is no different. The World Seniors gets underway. The round 1 games get underway on Thursday. And I can't wait.
I'm buzzing. I'm bringing the most ridiculously sized suitcase you've ever seen in your life, and I'm not even going to have that opportunity to wear that many clothes, but it's just everything about it. Trains are booked, hotels booked. I've got to spend 4 nights sharing a room with Lee Boyce, for God's sake. But is it 5? Is it 5 nights?
And to be fair,
5 nights.
It's kind of important when the tournament gets its own wiki page. You've made it then.
Yeah, that actually really helps trying to get the Twitter verified. So thank you, whoever did that. Maybe somebody needs to create an online darts Wikipedia page. Just saying.
Feel free. So, the opening round games will see Peter Manley against Dieter Hedman, Tony O'Shea against Kevin Painter, Robert Thornton against Bob Anderson, Paul Lim will play Dave Prinz, Les Wallace, John Walton, Terry Jenkins, Roland Sholton, Alan Warrener. I'm leaving the little off because when he was at his best, the little wasn't there. So for this, we're going to play nostalgia. He's just Alan Warrener. We'll play Larry Butler. And then
I'm not sure that's how names work, Phil, but okay.
We'll play Richie Housen. So, first round, boys. Where are we going? I know everyone wants to see Phill against Peter Manley. I don't see it happening. Genuinely don't.
Me neither. There's a couple of... all these players in their prime, we're having completely different conversations, but this is a very realistic of where these players are right now. There's going to be a lot of players that have played more recently, that have been playing competitive darts a lot more recently. And I think that's certainly going to help players. And one of those players is Dieter Hedman. I genuinely think she's got a great chance to beat Peter Manley. He's one of the players that I think has left picking up the darts again a little bit later than a lot more of the field. He's been very, very busy in his role in the PDPA. And I think that might be an issue for him. Dieter Hedman is a classy operator, has won... Has she won more titles than Phill? Is she the most successful in terms of number of titles in the field?
It might be. Isn't it over 200 ranking titles or something stupid like that?
It must be something staggering. And yeah, She looked very, very steady at the Ladies Series last year. She's going into the WDF World Championships in great shape. I genuinely think she's going to have a tough matchup for Peter Manley. It's if Peter resorts to the dark arts tactics and does a little bit of talking and everything else that Peter is renowned for, that to forgive the stereotype, we don't really tend to see in the ladies' game.
You might have to bring it out.
And like I told you, Phil, when you told me you'd have to use that against me, I know I'm better than you if you're resorting to that.
I just like playing tactics.
It's because you can't play darts.
Win at all costs.
Now you sound like my football manager. Anyway.
And then Tony O'Shea against Kevin Painter. This is a real coin toss for me, this one, boys. So this one could go either way.
Yeah. I was looking at the first game and I want to see Manly Taylor, but I'm with all of you in regards to detail. With O'Shea and Painter, I want to see that game just every night because they are two of my favourite players when I first started watching the sport. So the fact they are now playing each other in the first round is absolutely horrible for me. I don't want to pick either of them. I think Kevin Painter will come through it, but I just hope we see a really good game between the two of them. Because like it says, I can't wait to see the pair of them live. I have done previously, but many, many years ago. So to see them both competing will be very good. Hopefully we go all the way in this one, but I think Kevin Painter does win it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Where are you going, Gob?
I've got Painter, and I'm pretty comfortably. I can't lie. I've got Kevin in the semi-finals. Spoiler alert for picks later on.
Gob.
Interesting.
I didn't say spoiler alert, but yeah, I've got Painter in the semi-finals.
I haven't. Robert Thornton against Bob Anderson. Before we go on the game, can't remember who it was, my apologies, asked, are there proper walk-ons? Yes, there are. Will we see a stupid horse? No, we won't.
Not a real one. Jason Francis is very, very keen for somebody to turn up in a pantomime horse and imitate the walk-on. We just refuse to fill out the health and safety risk assessment for a real horse this time. Times have changed. We're not getting that into a building without the risk of kicking somebody in the face.
But look, I suppose there's questions in this one, God. One, where's Bob Anderson's game right now? Because we don't know. And if Robert Thornton turns up that we've seen, he could blow Bob away.
Yeah, he could, but look, you don't win the world title as many times as Bob does if there's not something about you. I still think he plays and picks him up regularly and etc. It's just if it's at that very, very top level. I'll tell you what, Bob Anderson is a godsend on social media because he is one, despite being one of the oldest in the field. Bob and John Lowe have been absolutely superb, by the way.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Cannot fault them one little bit. And they're the sort of players I'm looking forward to, as a fan of the sport, to being there and meeting and being around, because without sounding arrogant or stupid or whatever, when you've been to Pro Tours or when you've been to PDC events and you've met a lot of the modern era and the players and around it and been around them, it's very similar. But to see these guys that were playing 30 odd years ago that everybody in the game still currently looks up to, and you look at every documentary on how darts got to where it was, and these guys changed the face of it. They gave up so much to go and form the World Darts Council or whatever it was before it became the PDC, and just there's just such admiration for these guys. And even if they don't produce 95 averages, I'm still going to enjoy watching these guys play, compete, because you don't lose that buzz. Especially not guys that won world titles. You do not lose that buzz and will to... You don't get up there just to throw and take part. You get up there going, I want to beat this guy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Interesting. Paul Lim, Dave Prinz. The fairy tale here is Paul Lim. My worry, if we see Paul Lim that we saw against Joe Merlin at Ali Pally, the legend of the game gets battered.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm looking at, like, as I said, with the O'Shea painter, there's a lot of them. You're pitting with your head or your heart with a lot of them.
Yeah,
I'm
completely.
going to go. I think last week I was adamant Prince. I'm going to go with Paul Lim. I think we see a different Paul Lim to what we saw out there. As we was talking about there, a lot of these, I'm not sure initially how competitive their mindset will be with some of them. But after probably the first game, the atmosphere, the day, the build-up, that will soon change. And the more the weekend goes on, I think that nostalgia of it all will turn very quickly into such a competitive edge. And I just think in this one that Paul Lim will just about do enough. He'll be backed by the sellout crowd. And I'm just going to edge towards Paul Lim. And go with my heart on this one, but I'm surprised that Dave Prinz isn't the favourite to take it because of the form we've seen with Lim. And as Dob will tell better than any of us, the 2 days, not the fact of not winning one of those 2 days, but being top of the order of merit probably puts him in a very, very strong position down into it. But I can't batter than Paul Lim, sorry.
Yeah, I don't think Prince had a bad flyer on a Friday night either. He's pretty solid across all 3 days. Obviously, that Friday night didn't count towards the order of merit, but he was pretty solid. To finish above Colin McGarry, I think Mark Hilton was pretty close maybe as well. And Ian Moss as well, he was pretty solid. So to finish above those guys, it was just solid all weekend. Superb from Dave Prinz, and look, if he comes up, he's playing regularly in a competitive area in the UK compared to Lim, who, like we said, wasn't at his magnificent best at the World Championships. It will be a battle for Paul Lim.
Yeah, no, I agree. This next one, I think this is one-sided, unfortunately. Les Wallace and John Morton. John Morton still knocking in some very, very good averages for Yorkshire when you see him playing in the Super League and everything like that. And I think John Morton wins this one comfortably.
Hard to disagree. Les Wallace is one of the players that I probably know least about in this field. I'll be completely honest. There's a lot of interest around Les being back and playing, but in terms of playing competitive darts, this is where John Morton has the edge.
Yeah, I agree. Are you the same, Boise?
Yeah, full house on this one, mate.
Oh dear, bat Wallace. Terry Jenkins, Roland Sholton. I suppose again the question is one. We don't know a lot about what Roland Sholton's been up to. Tucked away in the Netherlands, it's a bit of an unknown quantity. We saw TJ play at the Live League back end of last year, and in spells looked sensational.
Yeah, it did. And I am going to back Terry in this one. It's just the thing for me. It's different. The Live League's been brilliant for so many people having that match experience. This is then going to be a different level completely for Terry Jenkins in the sense of just being back on a stage and not knowing what Roland Sholton within a vet. But I see Terry coming through it, and hopefully we see Terry coming through it and playing well, because that sets up a very, very good second round tie, because we know the standard that Lisa's going to bring. So if Terry can perform, whoever comes through it, but I think it'll be Terry.
For you, Gob?
Yeah, look, I can't see past it. Unless Roland's just been playing, hitting the board and the like. But again, it's not a name that we hear very often in terms of there are plenty of people interested in darts in the Netherlands, especially in the media. And we don't really hear an awful lot of what Roland Sholton is doing. If he's doing something special, even in a local league, one of the Dutch journalists would find it and would put it all over Twitter. We'd know about it. That's just the way that these guys work. They do not miss a thing. Some of the guys might even be in the chat room right now. They are superb. The amount of under knowledge and everything that these guys can capture if you don't follow someone on Twitter is ridiculous. And we just haven't heard that about Roland Shelton playing darts.
Which brings us on to the next one. I don't know if Anthony, if you're still in the chat room, mate, pop up on this one. But Larry Butler flies the flag for the United States of America against Alan Warren Little. And I can't wait to see Larry Butler play again. And I think Butler's the favourite here for me in a big way because he plays regularly still.
Comfortably. Larry Butler looks superb at times on the CDC last year again. He's still playing at a very competitive level. We've spoken about how highly we rate that's the CDC setup. You look at the players that it's produced to tour card holders in the last couple of years. Van Dongen, Laubion Challenge, Matt Campbell. We also saw Leonard Gates at Q School, etc. Larry's been in there competing with these guys for the last couple of years still. And that's why he's favourite for me in this one.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. You saying, Boise?
I hate to say, but it's another full house. It's hard to distribute. I think Larry Butler comes through it. Alan Warren a little not. Obviously, we saw him on our screens this weekend, but in regards to darts and how he's been performing, another one not seen much of. And we have with Larry, so I think Larry comes through in the penultimate one.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. Looking forward to seeing that. And then Daryl Fitton will take on Richie Howson. And this could be a little bit tasty. I like this. And look, I like both players, but part of me really wants to see Adams Fitton one more time. But Richie Howson is going to have something to say on this because he was sensational in qualifying, Gob.
Yeah, look, the Saturday was at. I joked around with him on the Saturday morning and said, how was last night? He went, not great. Hopefully today will be better. And then the more and more he's going through the rounds, I'm like, how's it going? Yeah, still going. The next thing you know, I think I've worked out that Paul Lim will be travelling the furthest. It's nearly 6,500 miles for him to get to London. Richie Howson lives within meters. You can measure it in meters from the Circus Tavern. He is travelling the closest. I think that being able to stay at home, that home comfort might just help Richie as well. He's still playing regularly. I think he was at Q School as well. Don't quote me on that 100%. But yeah, he just looks solid. Very, very steady. Very, very consistent player is Richie. And if he does come through that, with that bit of stage experience as well, expect him to give Wolfie a pretty good game.
Yeah. No, completely. Same as every tournament, boys. The World Seniors is no different. I would like your semi-finalists and in the chat room as well. Come and get involved in the World Seniors talk. Who will be the final four? And remember, time is running out. You have about 20 minutes left to enter the competition for tickets for the sold-out final of the World Seniors on Sunday night. Remember, hashtag ODDarts, and the winners will be announced before we leave this evening. So, Gob, I would like top half of the draw. Your semi-final will be contested between who?
Kevin Painter and Robert Thornton.
Yeah. And in the bottom half?
Ooh, which is where it's a little more difficult. John Walton. I had Lisa up until about 20 minutes ago. and I have done for a long, long time. But John Walton against Mr. 138. Keith Della.
We'll come on to that in a second. Harry, all you've got to do in the comments there is just hashtag ODDarts. Boise, your semi-finalists.
Mine just keep changing. I think Phill Taylor is in the semi-finals against, and I know Dab, I spoke to you last week and I didn't have him in my semi-finals. That's how much it's changing. So for now, Phill is in, and it's
what you've done there,
me,
is what every single punter and every person that has ever followed darts has done and gone, I really shouldn't back Phill, but it's Phill.
Exactly. And for me, what it is because I see him coming through that second round game, whoever he plays, he only gets better as the weekend progresses for me. And the fact that I see him coming through that second round game fairly comfortably, I just think then he gets that semi-final spot. And I can't see anyone other than Thornton in that second quarter. I
think Dieter beats Phill. That wasn't part of the conversation. You did look at the second round. I think Hedman beats Manley and Phill.
Yeah, I don't.
Bottom half.
This is horrible. This is the worst one we're ever going to do, by the way. All the PDC ones I'm totally fine with. This one's the worst one for me to do. Because it's head and heart with them. So, Terry Jenkins plays Martin Adams.
I am going
Phill Taylor, Robert Thornton, Lisa Ashton, Martin Adams. Thanks for coming.
Incorrect. I am going
I've got three
Wayne
of
Warren.
them. Maybe I didn't get three of them.
I agree, Thornton. I can't see anything other than Thornton coming through quarter number 2. I think we're all agreed on that. That a bit like Wade in the PDC World Championships, you just can't see Thornton not making the semi-final from that quarter. Section 3, I've changed my mind recently. I'm going Terry
torn
Jenkins.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought Terry was superb in the live league when we had him, but he had that comfort blanket of being able to lose. I think this is the most difficult quarter of the draw to call. And I've looked at time, and I'll be honest, Jenkins and Sholton are 2 of the 3 players that I hadn't ever put in that semi-final stage. I've looked at Walton, I've looked at Part, and I've looked at Lisa Ashton. So for you to have both come up with a completely different name that is the same, it's quite surprising.
And everyone knows where I'm going in the bottom half, the bottom one.
You're going Wolf.
Everyone knows who I'm backing to win it. So,
Dob, I think on the predictions when looking at it now, the difficult thing is when we're doing the PDC ones, we're looking over the past 3 or 4 tournaments and then probably the year as well with some of them. This one, we're looking at what they've done over 12 months if we've seen them and then what they did in 30 years ago. That's why for me it's so difficult to see how many of these are going to come with a massive competitive edge. How many are going to, it's that sort of everyone's going to be slightly different on it. Well, I think the majority of pits are all going to be different. We're going to see so much differentiation between this one and what we have normally with the PDC ones in the chat room and between us 3, as we've seen already.
couple of people are asking in the chat room the format: rounds 1, 2, and the quarterfinals, best of 5 sets. Semi-final and final, best of 7 sets. So, boys, from your selections, finalists and winners, or winner, please. Do you want me to go first? Because I know mine.
No,
Yeah.
Thornton beats John Walton for me.
Boise?
See, from mine, I really want to see then a Taylor Terry Jenkins final. However, I think it'll be Thornton Adams. So I'm going to go Rob Thornton, Martin Adams, and Rob Thornton wins it. Who did you have to win it, Dob?
Thornton.
You've both got Thornton to win it.
He was telling everybody at Q School he was going to win it, so I hope so.
I am going Martin Adams will beat Wayne Warren in the final.
Bold.
What? Which bit? The winner or the runner-up?
Runner-up.
Oh.
There we have it. Chat room. Who wins the World Seniors then? Let's have it. Let's have them in. Who do you think is going to win? We've given you ours, and whilst you're putting them in, I deliberately teed this up because it deserves a look. Look at it.
Beautiful.
Cool. I wanted to mention it earlier when Derek was up, but we moved on a little bit quickly. It is the only announcement in darts in the last 5 years or so I have seen where there has literally not been one single bit of criticism or negativity around it.
Yeah.
It takes something special to unite Twitter in particular for darts, but literally not one single comeback on it.
Completely. It just looks magnificent.
It is.
So what
It's
we got?
great
Ashton,
design.
Adams, Taylor, Painter, Fitton. Ashton shouldn't be written off. No, a lot. It's very, very spread in the chat room. Also,
Not surprised at all, really. Obviously with the names we've got in there, I'm not surprised at all that the winners are very much spread. But it's very hard for people not to back Taylor, as we seen earlier from Jennings. That's very much the taste, but that's just solely based on reputation, isn't it?
I think the options for who wins a tournament narrow significantly by the time we're at Lakeside. Once we see the form players are carrying for the first time here, the number of players being suggested that could win the title narrows.
yeah. Also, starting tomorrow morning, the live league returns to your screens, 9:30 tomorrow morning. And what a bumper session we've got. Some big, big names in there. Looking forward to it already, boys.
Indeed, it's back. It's on YouTube. It's something for while I'm working on the big TV in the corner of the room. But yeah, superb that we are back up and running for the year. the names of players available, the fact there is no restrictions in the UK, meaning we can get international players in this year, just means it's going to be even bigger, even better. Some of these names you're used to seeing, Kai Fan Lung, for example, you're not used to seeing. We can just have so many better combinations now of players for the foreseeable. It's superb. And look, we saw how pivotal the Live League was in Q School, in the WDF ranking system and the like. It's been brought up virtually everywhere for players that didn't have a tour card before Q School. There is a very, very long line of players wanting to get involved in this now.
Oh, completely. Absolutely. And I cannot wait. It's going to be good. Also, we haven't got graphics for it, but the Riley's qualifiers underway. And me and Boise were talking about this in Milton Keynes, Gob, and interesting to get your take on this. Not really amateur qualifiers that have come through so far, is it?
No, and it's been progressively getting that way for a long, long time now. You do get the odd name that comes through. You get your Louis. You get Brett Claydon a few years ago before he had his tour card, won one of the Nottingham ones, and a couple of other county players tend to dominate. It's not quite the fairy tale that the amateur qualifiers used to be, but it's still important for that event. I still think that the fact that on any given day we can turn up, we can qualify through, is important. I just think, I don't know. I think there needs to be some sort of stipulation that if you're Challenge Tour player, etc., that perhaps you can't enter these. They get an opportunity via the Challenge Tour to be at the UK Open, and at that point, if you don't get your opportunity for that, why should you then go to the amateur ones? Challenge Tour is effectively semi-pro.
I guess there just have to be something in there, Dob, for if you've gone to Q-Stall this year for the first year, you haven't then had that opportunity. In such you should be able to. It's people who've been on the Challenge Tour last year. I could see something like that, or potentially, but there's still plenty of opportunities for the unknown. And when I say obviously the unknown, we're talking generally about like sort of your county players and stuff to still come through, not been on our TV screens. There's still 13 more to go, I think. 16 overall, wasn't there? 13 more to go across the next 3 or 4 weekends. So hopefully we'll see a few names in that. For me, as Phill mentioned, we was talking about it on Saturday or Sunday when we'd seen the names come through. And it was no surprise as such, the 3 we had when we'd seen some of the names there, but just hoping that there's probably going to be more of these names that we've heard of, names that are playing at the Live League potentially. But we're hoping for 4 or 5 of your plumbers, postmans, them sort of stories that you hear come through who have not been on TV before, hopefully making their UK Open debuts in March for another tournament I can't wait for.
Yeah. Connor makes a good point here. He says they used to stop PDPA members entering years ago, I think. That's a shout. If you're a PDPA member, you can't enter. I don't dislike that.
I don't dislike that either.
100%. So yeah, what's the Live League format for this stage? We're working on something for later on in the year, but to start the year, it'll be the same as last year. But also some other huge news broke. We knew about this early. We just didn't know when it was going to break. We were sworn to secrecy. Unprecedented almost as well that the PDC have allowed the tour card holders that won their card at Q School to play in the rearranged WDF World Championships. Great news for the players. Great news for the WDF and the tournament. And a sensible decision. But I don't think they'd have done it if it was higher ranked players, shall we say. Does that make sense? It's because they were all new tour card holders, they've allowed it to happen.
I think so. I think it makes sense. I think there's going to be a clamouring, and I get that the wording and the statement, etc., says that this is 100% a one-off, but there is going to be a clamouring for tour card holders to be able to play in events other than PDC events. The Live League has shown that there are opportunities for players to make money elsewhere that probably earns more than the bottom end of the tour card, and it's easier for the PDC to let those players go away and say, actually, look, this is what our players are capable of, than it is for them to prop up the prize fund and have a minimum payment for every time you turn up, etc. I think it's a great move. I also think that the fact Winmar have just come on board with the PDC, good timing perhaps, that they're also back with the WDF. There's lots of little connections now. It's great that this relationship is clearly stronger already than it was under the BDO, especially for the last couple of years. And the fact that, look, the PDC have acknowledged it, I guess this means two things. One, they acknowledge how important the WDF is and has been for them in the past. And B, they don't see it as a rival. If you see it as a rival, you're not about to give up 6-7 players to them.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this with Jim McEwen, but even more so now with the rearranged dates, because Ross Montgomery and Mario van der Bogengard have turned their invites down. If you're fresh on the tour, and Connor, you're in the chat room, so this may be a good one for you. If you play in this, let me just get the calendar up, 2 seconds. Because this is now completely different to trying to win your tour card. You are a tour card holder now, is the thing.
Yeah.
So this is completely different. So Lakeside starts on what date now?
Saturday the 2nd.
Sick. I don't know.
Saturday the 2nd runs to the 2nd to the 10th, I believe.
Right. So you potentially miss 4 Pro Tours.
Yep.
Now, the reason I say this is a different conversation to Q School, because you haven't got a card. Now you've got a card, you're one of the elite 128, and the goal has to be to keep that card. So
Yeah.
it then means more, because say you miss out on your card by keeping your card by a couple of grand, or even worse, say you miss Ali Pally by $1,000 because you missed those 4 Pro Tours.
All of them have got a second year.
Yeah.
All of them got a second year.
But that's added pressure in your second year then. Get the money on the board early.
If you're only
make
missing out on the
second year.
world by $1,000 in year 1, then you're going to be all right.
Are you?
You'd expect so. They're missing 14% of the Pro Tour for a chance to become, whether you like it or not, some form of world champion with £50,000 prize money.
But then you also could miss the opportunity of going to the professional world championship and changing your life and winning $500,000.
If you're good enough to get there, if you're missing out on that by $1,000 because you missed 4 Pro Tours, Phil, you're not about to win the PDC World Championships.
Why not? Kirk Shepherd got to a world final.
Put that there.
Didn't win it though, did he? And darts has changed since Kirk Shepherd did that.
But things happen. Funny things happen.
I can
Only in
understand the
sport,
decision.
fairy tales come true.
Yeah, I can understand the decision of the two players. One of the players I found it very strange to then refuse all any other competition but the PDC after comments made in previous years. But I can see it from both sides because of what them Pro Tours are in Germany as well. So even if you are playing on Monday in your game, you've still got that back. If you're playing Sunday evening, you don't play in the Saturday event. And the flip of that is there's a Pro Tour the following weekend, which clashes with the semi-finals and finals. So if you are then in the quarterfinals, have you then submitted your entry to the Pro Tours for that weekend? And on the basis potentially being knocked out Friday night and then travelling that night, Saturday morning to go and play in a Pro Tour. I think if you've committed to the WDF, unless you're out by the Wednesday, I think you've got to be fully committed to that competition, because then travelling for Pro Tours for those two events would probably potentially cause more harm because your preparation wouldn't have been there in the sense of you travelling over that late on. So for me, if you go on the WDF and you've got through your first round, you've probably then got to commit for the rest of that week. But it'll be interesting to see from those 5 players who put the ones who don't progress on their decision the back end of the week.
Yeah, look, it's personal preference. Like Laura says, of course you want your shot at Lakeside. I disagree personally. Going back to when Lakeside was on par, I agree. But just personal opinion, if I was one of them, I would rather go and do the Pro Tours and take my shot at Ultimate Glory. But that's just
Phill,
me.
if you was one of them and your first or second round day was on second round, I think you start on Monday. Start on the Monday, so you can enter the first 2 Pro Tours, but not the second 2 if you have the one. Would you then still refuse the invite?
Yeah. I'd want to do all 4 Pro Tours. Because the goal is to be a professional. The goal was to get my card. Now the goal is to keep my card. And going to Lakeside doesn't help me do that.
50 grand.
Yeah.
How much is winning the Pro Tour event?
10.
Win all 5? What's the difference?
A lot more games against a far more significantly high quality field. Not on TV, not with exposure for sponsors, but it's okay. You might get into the PDC World Championships and potentially win another 7 games against a far higher quality field again and do a Kirk Shepherd.
It's everything that comes with it. It's getting yourself up that rankings. Then Euro Tours come with it. Getting yourself in all the TV tournaments comes with it. Mindset
Euro
is
Tours come
getting
with Euro qualifiers. 50 grand and being called a world champ. Connor agrees. 50 grand. 50 grand sets him up for the entire season. Even if you fail to make the PDC World Championships, you go into the next year where you're saying there's pressure to keep your card, where there's absolutely no pressure on winning any money. You can go in there and just play for the ranking points. When you have to do it for your dinner, it's a different mindset. 50 grand means these players can go full time. The guys that are going to be competing are not full-time dart players. If they go and win the WGF World Championships, they win 50 grand. They can still go back to the PDC without having to worry about giving prize money back. All the nonsense contracts that Glenn Durrant and the like were all put through. They're set up for at least 2, maybe 3 years. Especially if they get management. You're going to get sponsors on board as a world champion. You're going to get exhibitions and the like. You then are a professional dart player that can focus on playing darts. If you can't sacrifice 4 Pro Tours out of 28 for that end goal, your mindset's completely wrong. You don't deserve. You're never going to be a professional dart player. If you're scraping around for
I
hundreds
disagree.
of pounds on a Pro Tour, thinking you're not about to go and win a bigger one in a depleted field, then why on earth are you in the PDC?
Or you back your ability to say I can win PDC Pro Tours.
Well, then you back your ability to do it in the other 24 of the year.
Yeah, and you add to it. You win multiple titles in a year.
One win pretty much gets you in the match play. That will then secure you in the World Championship.
But then you want more. Then you want to be.
You do want more, but you accumulate that, and you're saying that the ultimate goal here is to get on there, get your rankings, keep your card. One Pro Tour win does that, and you're saying back your ability. They've got 24 opportunities.
Go on to the next level and win a PDC. Look, I'm just going to throw it out there, and people are going to hate this. Joe Cullen winning the Masters is better than winning Lakeside. I said it. It means more.
Not because it backdoored him into the Premier League over Rob Cross, yeah.
All right. Rob Cross winning the European Championships is better than winning Lakeside. That didn't get him in the Prem.
Sorry, boys. My desserts told me to pop on. If you just hold on a sec, I'll leave you to it.
Every single player in this situation has said they're going to Lakeside. Every single player that we've spoken to. The only two that have turned it down, Mario, not really sure why, and Ross Montgomery, who has the biggest love-hate relationship with that organisation.
In my opinion, winning any PDC televised title means more than winning the WDF Lakeside.
No.
100%.
No. World champion. Even if you go around as an amateur world champion. I don't care if the organisations are changed. We've had this conversation 1,000,001 times. The players are telling you that the chance to being called a world champion still means something to them, even if it's under the new WDF banner, etc. If that still means something to all the players in that conversation, then it's still important, whether you think that's as important as or not.
All right, so if I set up a local open and call it a world championship because it's my organisation, I win it, I can then call myself a world champion.
No, Phil. You can't win a game in your bedroom, mate. You have no pedigree. You have no history.
Look,
it's completely different, and you know it. This is a long-standing organisation.
Winning any PDC televised title is better and more important than winning Lakeside for me.
So, that's a different debate to the first one. For me, I think if I'm one of the 7 who qualified for the WDF, I'm with Dob, I would be playing in the WDF and putting aside the Players' Championships this occasion. Debate is slightly different around would I rather win a PDC event than a WDF one. Because being the world champion does mean a lot. However, the knock-on effect of you was talking there, Dob, about the 50k. Joe won more than that yesterday, and then some with all the Premier League money that's in the thumb. So, from a money aspect, winning a non-rant PDC event is more and better, but it depends on totally what your motivation is. And for me, I think Connor mentioned it as well in the chat. For someone who's a younger player, Tendoran that win his tour title, then if he misses out by £100, it's very difficult to do. But we've seen players did it again and again. For someone who's
those players
like Ross
on the Lakeside stage, I'm not even convinced it happens still.
Might not have to be, but they're all stating their intention to go to Lakeside. It's a free roll to go and potentially become a world champion, earn 50 grand at the cost of 4 Pro Tours.
I'm not buying this.
That's the ultimate decision.
World champion. I'm not buying.
That's the ultimate
call
decision.
Yourself a world champion. Right.
Tell that to the winner. Tell that to the winner.
And this isn't just darts. This is every sport, by the way. This is one of my bugbears about boxing and everything like that. There should only be one world champion per sport.
You love the belt idea and multiple world champions, so don't give me that.
No. Yeah, the belt idea I like, but there was still only one world champion there was only one world championship belt. That's boxing's biggest issue. That's why UFC works, because there was only one world champion per weight category. If you are the world champion at that weight, you are the best in UFC. That's why it works.
I think there can be 2 world champions as long as it's clearly defined that there's a professional and an amateur world champion, and it's not the old school.
I'm with you there. That I haven't got a problem with.
If BDO refused to drop the world professional from their title, that was always a status thing rather than anything else. I have absolutely no illusions that the WDF are going to sit there and try and put their world champion on the same pedestal as Peter Wright. It's just not going to happen. But they are still a world champion. It's a world tournament with world qualifying criteria. They will be a world champion.
Should only be one world champion per sport. That's not just darts, that's everything.
Professional, yeah. Professional.
Anyway, moving on. As we're getting close. Right. Can you two take questions and Phill? Because I've got to go back through the comments and get everyone who's entered.
Yes. What Jim said. Go on in, question time, Fergie time. It's Lee's steak wasn't cooked properly time. And Connor says, and it's televised, which will be nice. Yeah, but you might get on one stream on PDC TV over the 4 days, Connor, and potentially win £500. What are you playing at? Yeah.
The only part to that is you've also got potential to get yourself on TV tournaments that would have more viewers. So the TV one and the exposure, I'm not fully sold on. For me, the 50k in 1 week and being the amateur world champion, is where I see it from.
Yeah.
The exposure, I'm still a bit worried about. But for Phil's point on I don't know, we're going to move on from it now, but Phil's point around it still not going ahead. If it doesn't go ahead, surely the 5 players who've accepted will just play in the Pro Tour and they've not lost anything.
Exactly.
So it's more the rest.
It's free entry for the Pro Tour. They're going to have management that are going to cover hotels.
Yeah,
They'll have some sort of... They'll know before that week the tournament's going ahead or not. It is a free roll to go to Lakeside, potentially earn £50,000 on one of the most prestigious stages in darts history, and be able to call yourself a world champion in some regard. It's an absolute no-brainer. Don't start that. How many PDC majors are better than the WTF Worlds? According to Phill, all of them. Including the World Series in Shanghai.
Correct.
Michael Smith's Shanghai Darts Masters means more than the WTF World Championship, according to Phill.
He won more money at the
Michael
Shanghai
Smith
Darts
doesn't
Masters.
even rate it Shanghai Darts Masters. Why don't we set up a tournament like the darts referee has done? We're not quite there yet. I think we just don't have time to organise one. We do a lot more media-wise. Obviously, Jack does a lot of filming for himself, etc. Then you've got to source a venue. All 3 of us live in different parts of the country, so at least 2 of us would have to travel. Then the organisation, etc. Basically, tournaments are long, hard days that, in terms of content creation for us, wouldn't be the most rewarding. We don't really do a lot of vlogs or anything like that behind the scenes as yet. Hopefully, maybe in the future, but we're pretty stretched for what we do at the minute. So that's where we're going.
Yeah, I agree on that. Dob, one in here around, is it really a live lounge without Phill and Dob squabbling just at a ringing, fellas? On that note, trust me, if there's any happenings this weekend when I'm with the pair of them, I will make sure it's on camera and that's on all our social media. Don't you worry about that when I tell them about you. I will be there, ready, with all those videos when these 2 are squabbling over the weekend.
I'm going to cause chaos this weekend at Circus Tavern.
I'm going to buy
you. No, you're not, Philip. Mr. Bars, I've heard your plans. No, you're not. I'll stand on the door.
As acting press officer, I'm quite concerned about your behaviour, Philip, and I will be reporting you.
Who are you reporting to? Yeah, yourself.
Me. I'm reporting to myself, and I'm bigger than him, so he's out. Seriously, Phil, if you rock up in flip-flops, I will be travelling the 1.5 miles down the road to Lakeside and chucking them in. Don't make me send you another email.
I'm just going through the chat to see if there's any other questions.
Okay, let's go from will Wright get to world number 1 if he doesn't use the darts he used in the Worlds? I think it pretty much down to the UK Open. And at that point, Gezzy's due to drop off anyway. The tour card race for the end of the year has Peter Wright considerably ahead of Gerwyn Price. He's got a lot of defending to do this year. Early losses are not great for Wright, but we've seen that he's capable of getting through early rounds. Last weekend, notwithstanding, pretty comfortably anyway. So I guess it depends if he picks up a couple of wins. If he avoids first round defeats in the next 2 events, then yeah, Peter Wright will pretty much be the new world number 1.
Yeah, I think on that, a lot of it is based more on Derwin than it is on Peter around the number 1 spot. I think Derwin's got a bit to defend maybe in the UK Open, as you said, and a couple of the others. So I can't see anything other than Wright being number 1 come mid-year, if not beforehand. I'm sure it can happen at Pro Tours. Not sure if it can this weekend, but at the second batch maybe if it can't this one. So I can't see Peter not being number 1 at some stage this year. It just depends how good of a year Derwin has to stay up there challenging with it.
Yeah, San Aldino says seniors or Prem on Thursday or both at the same time. Phill will be in Cardiff for us. Me and Lee will be at the Circus Tavern. Something we have neglected to mention is there's also a Pro Tour this weekend, which we're not looking ahead to, but it is the first one of the weekend. There's been a couple of call-ups already. Some players that have tour cards not accepting. I think Jim McEwen's got a call-up from the Challenge Tour of Merit, and he finished 4th or 5th. So there is going to be a couple of players missing that one. Yeah, we will be as ever live streaming for both days of Pro Tour action on the YouTube channel as well. Henry, who's joined us a couple of times. Yeah, it will not be any of us 3, but we will have a live stream running. Henry from the team will be hosting. From Phil's gaff, you get to see the washing machine. Don't worry, that's the only one that's sticking around. And then I think Dan and maybe Cam and some more of the team. Tiz, my favourite hero, will be about as well. Will Chisnell win a TV title? Just pluck that one out.
No.
Just yes.
Oh, you reckon?
Yeah.
Last night was his first opportunity to win one that wasn't in a final against either Phill Taylor or Marco van Gerwen.
Correct. That's
which is staggering. And when you look at it like that, you go, actually, maybe there's a reason why you've not won one. Because if you run into one of those two at the final stage of a tournament, you're in trouble. If you beat them along the way, then there's always... It's easier to beat a top player over a shorter distance.
Yeah.
I just think he does in time. It was down to a point last night where it was coming close because of Joe missing so many. I think his time will come and he will win one. Dob, just on the point that you mentioned about the Pro Tours, the 4 players who are missing out are Aspinall, Noppert, Lertbatter and Hunter Bunchtat, and they are replaced by Stock Williams, Jim McEwen, Stu Wilson and Steve Hecty. So those are the 4 changes for the Pro Tour.
Correct.
Sweet.
I did just see another question. Who do you guys think will win the opening Premier League night in Cardiff? From Craig. Good to see you, buddy. I think it's difficult for us to pick a winner on that one because we don't know this. We don't know the bracket,
side of the draw and everything.
Yeah.
However,
yeah,
Johnny Clayton.
Does Does it class as Joe Cullen's second TV title if he wins it on Thursday, by the way?
Oh, every match matters. So by the end of the year, that someone could win 15 TV titles in a year. Do you reckon I'll get Player of the Year?
Well, that's why I said yes to Chizzy, because if Chizzy that's in the Premier League one year, then he'll win one of the nights.
This format will be changed before Dave does not get back in the Premier League. I assure you.
This format might change by the end of week 4.
Yeah. To the original question, though, I'm going to go with Joe to follow up. I think Joe wins this on Thursday.
Price for me.
I knew the Perry was going to do for one of the Welsh parents.
Well, I'd usually go Peter Wright to respond, but I just don't trust what he's going to throw. Don't back MVG to come through a tournament-style field. If it's a one-off game a night, then I think he's the old format would have suited Michael Van Gerwen at the minute more than the current format. Stamina-wise, don't back Gary. Michael Smith, a little bit edgy.
With current format divvying Michael the opportunity to have 16 weeks of knockout tournaments, does that potentially, first couple of weeks he's not going to be favourite to don't win it because of his current record on TV in tournaments. But in the Lund run, does this then set him up better for the back end of the year? Does if he picks up 1, 2, 3 of those a toss, does that then put him in a better position going into your normal TV events because he's picked up I'm not going to say a title, but a winning night in a tournament format on TV?
Look, possibly this could play Gary and Michael into some form. But it's a question mark. But it could, for me.
I guess
I'm not about to sit here and say that Michael. I will say the words Michael Van Gerwen is back in inverted commas. That they were said way too often for the last 18 months, and I still think there are issues there. But I will say he's back, unironically, if he wins 3 weeks in a row, without a field opening up as well. Because I still think there are going to be easier routes than others.
Oh, yeah. 100% there could be easier routes than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely.
One thing.
Say for argument's sake, I don't mean this horribly, but on one side of the draw, you could have Wright, Price, Clayton, and
MVG.
Smith. Or MVG. You could have all that one side. So, yeah, it could be.
Well, you don't even have to have that. You just have to have somebody not in great form pick up wins at the opportune moments. Rob Cross would have adored this format because even on nights when he's playing badly, he has the ability to win through multiple matches on the same day. We've seen him do it at European Championship, Euro Tours, etc.
So with 16 weeks of mini tournaments and 8 players competing in all of those 16, do all 8 win a tournament? If not, who doesn't?
All eight do not win one.
Who doesn't?
2 don't.
Am I going 2 or am I going 3? Am I going 2 or 3? I'm going 3.
One of yours is quite easy, Phil.
Correct.
James Wade.
Correct.
Wade. Second one is Joe Cullen.
Correct.
Gary.
Oh, we picked the center. That's worrying.
Wade and Gary. I think Joe might sneak one because
Possibly,
Joe has moments where if he's on it, he's superb and he is capable of blowing people away. And now that he's won on TV and it's Euro Tour format, etc., I think he'll be all right. But I don't see Wade winning one of these nights. I think league format would have suited James Wade, where he can battle to a draw, come back next week, catch somebody off guard, etc. To do that 3 games in a row, the way that James Wade plays is incredibly difficult. And I'm just not sure we see the top level of Gary. I'd love it. I'd love it if Gary turns up and wins the first 4 weeks and just goes, "Come at me." But I just don't think it's going to happen.
I think we see Gary win one. I don't think about Wade. My biggest worry with this new format is probably for Michael Smith. The fact if he doesn't win one, so all this talk about him winning the TV title, and then if he has 16 weeks of mini tournaments and then doesn't pick one up, those question marks that raised even more as we're talking about Chizzy with the same.
I fancy Smith to win one early right now.
Yeah, it's just the fact of if he doesn't, it's how does that knock-on effect then deal with him? Because at the minute, I know we didn't get through on Sunday, but his form we've seen at stage on Saturday and then what we saw in the Worlds, you'd expect him to. But if he doesn't, or if it's into week 9 or 10 and he's yet to pick one up, it's then those question marks around will he win one this year. I think 6 win. It'd be great if all 8 did.
Yeah. Right, boys. We're going to give away some prizes.
You are. We're going to sit here and smile gleefully to those that have been successful.
Right, so we've got some stuff to give away from earlier on in Q School as well. We haven't forgotten. It's just been absolutely manic. So remember, this is across all platforms. We'll get to the big one in a minute, which is just on tonight. But so Thursday evening, 2 pairs of tickets for the opening night of the World Seniors. Sorry you can't see this on screen, by the way, folks, but I'm pressing the random generator button in front of me here. It was just too much going on to do it. So, first pair of tickets for the random generator for Thursday evening. Pair number 1 goes to YouTube, and it is James Smith. Pair of tickets for James. You can either message us on Twitter is probably the easiest one, God. That's the one we see more, isn't it? So if all winners can DM us on Twitter, we can get sorted. But pair number 1 goes to James Smith. Pair number 2 goes to Facebook Dan James.
The Leeds player.
Hopefully not.
Former United star.
He's crap.
It's fast.
Evening, Henry. Friday, we have, again, pairs of tickets. First one goes to taking its time. Twitter goes to Greg Holland.
Woo!
And
Oh, great.
We Barney alarm after every winner.
and pair number 2 goes to Facebook Amanda Riley.
Stop. Where's the woo?
Woo!
To be fair, the one that everyone cares about, which is YouTube only, which I've got a separate one set up for, the spinny wheel, is the important one. Is the Friday? Is the finals one? That's the important one. So Saturday afternoon, we have 1 pair. We've got a pair for Saturday afternoon, pair for the evening, pair for Saturday afternoon. I know I lied. Sorry, Saturday afternoon goes to YouTube. I know he's in the chat room. It's Malachi.
Yes. Woo! Actually, can I boo that one? Boo!
I was going to say, Dob, that woo wasn't as enthusiastic as the previous ones, I will say, mate.
Because all he does is abuse me.
Well done.
He says
Even
Phill
more
wins all
so.
of these. I'm backstage anyway. I'm going anyway.
Yeah, we're big time. We're already there. I did not just say that.
Yeah, that's a dish we definitely having done.
Yeah.
YouTube, it is Craig Gordon.
I'm sure Craig has just put a message in the chat prior to that saying congratulations to all the ticket winners for the senior darts and enjoy the event. You can enjoy it as well, my friend.
Yeah. And then here we go. The big one. Switching over to the other account. 2 pairs of tickets for the finals on Sunday night. Good luck, everyone. Pair number 1 goes to
Lee Boyce's waiter from tonight. Woo!
Rose Victoria.
Woo!
This last word best be done, Dob, I'm telling you.
Depends who it is.
Does. Pair number 2 goes to Joe Beatty.
Woo!
And
neighbour's gonna get mad.
Craig's just told us he can't go. Craig, we won't redraw it yet. If you want to give them to someone that can go, let us know.
Yes.
And if you can't, then we will redo.
Don't show anybody at work this video and pull a sickie.
Yeah.
But the day off, say you've got a wedding, I don't know, something like that. It'll work fine.
On a Monday.
So there we have it, boys. Tickets are done and dusted. Oh, give yourselves a round of applause. But boys, that brings to a close tonight's live lounge. It's been absolutely exceptional. It's been good. And remember,
I'm still glad, Phil. I'm still glad I've done a 2-hour show. Really, let's be honest. I didn't really miss anything. I've done 2 hours. It's fine.
To be fair, you should be used to Fergie time. Everyone, absolute amazing to have you on board. Remember, the live league returns tomorrow morning, 9:30. I'm going to set the stream up shortly. Make sure you are there and join us. I've been Phill Bars, Jack Gobby Garwood, Lee Boyce. It's been absolutely amazing, boys, and we will see you all very, very soon here at Online Darts.